Hello and welcome to Small Business Snippets, the podcast from smallbusiness.co.uk. I'm your host, Anna Jordan. Today we have Caprice Bourret, a former model turned businesswoman. You might recognise her from the front covers of Vogue and Esquire or from her appearance on Channel 4's The Jump in 2017. She's here to talk about moving into the business world and the experiences that came with launching her lingerie brand by Caprice and her homeware range by Caprice Home. Hi, Caprice.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Nice. Right, let's crack on. So when you retired from modelling, you were well known, and then you moved into the business world where you were less well known. How did you rebuild your reputation in another field?
Well, that took quite a few years. It wasn't, I'm not going to paint a beautiful picture because it wasn't, the stereotype was quite severe. I didn't think it would be that difficult, coming from being a well-known model and then trying to have credibility in the business world was difficult, but with a lot of tenacity, and I had to ascertain stockists. So I would call up, I'd go directly to the CEO and try it that way, because usually with the buyers I was a bit chopped liver regardless who I was. So I went to the CEOs and I said, listen, I've got this great idea, this great brand, and most of them, when you invest in a new brand, you're talking about a massive investment in some regards. When I first started out, it was a license deal, so they would invest. I mean, I know because, I did it myself, at least $500,000 into a new brand. So it was a hard sale. And then when I started supplying myself, I didn't have any sales. So they just thought, we're not going to invest. We could go with this brand, and we know right off the bat we'll make $250,000 in the first drop. The Caprice brand, she gets notoriety, she gets press, but we don't have any sales traction. So it was really, really difficult initially. The stereotype, in a way, worked to my advantage because I did get the meetings with the CEOs, or the CEOs went to the buyers and said, listen, you have to take this meeting. But then it worked against me because of the stereotype. They thought, oh, a model, come on, she's going to be here one day and out the next. Forget it. We're not going to make this investment. But all I needed was one stockist, and I got the one stockist, and then I just worked that, and the sales were great. And then I went to the other stockist and said, listen, you could stereotype all you want, but I got the sales. So I had to be very, very patient. And in business, it's hard. Every time you fall down, you got to get back up. And if you don't think you're not going to fall down, then shame on you, because it happened. The ones that are successful are the ones that keep getting back up.
So you must have thought about branding yourself before you retired from modelling, and how you were going to go about slowly building that up. How did you start that when you were still modelling?
Well, I have to tell you, when you're in the modeling business, and not only the modeling business, but when you have some notoriety behind that, you become sort of a household name. You start to believe your own bullshit. I have to tell you, it's hard on it's fantastic on the ego, but you don't think it's going to end ever. But for some reason, I think because, I know what it's like to not have enough money to eat. I know what it's like to be really, really down and out. From nothing. When I was 18, my mom said, see ya, good luck, write me a postcard. I had no money. It was hard. And then when I started to build my career, and it makes you a different person, it makes you a grafter, it makes you hungry, it makes you smarter. So I knew that the modeling industry would, I was entering my 30s, and that's like one foot in the grave, regardless how successful you are. So I knew I had to think of plan B. So I thought, what will everyone buy into? Boom. Lingerie, easy beasy, right? So I had to think about that while I was at the top of my game, because that's when I have the power. Yeah. And which I did. And, initially I started out with a license deal because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So somebody else, take the risk. And I convinced CEO of Debenhams to do that, and he did. And it was a smart risk to take because I made them very, very rich. And then I took the license back, and I started to supply myself.
So let's talk a bit more about the licensing. So I imagine doing that 6-year deal with Debenhams, and I believe by Caprice Home, you've just done a license agreement with Sadacat.
Yes.
They must have been quite different experiences. What kind of tips do you have for entrepreneurs who are going through that license agreement process for the first time?
So every deal is different. Let me explain to you what a license deal is to begin with. So I give them my name, and they develop my brand, and they supply it. Boom. So you get between 5 to 12% of sales. Now with Debenhams, they had creative control. They basically did everything. And all I had to do was say, yeah, that's pretty. Okay, great. It was pretty straightforward stuff. But with Saticat, it's a different kind of deal. I have creative input and control because my name is much more established and I need to protect my name. Mm-hmm. So it's only to my advantage to be even more intertwined and not just to say, here's my name, go get him, bad boy, let's do this, With the license deal, even with Saticat, I had to build my brand first. Saticat just didn't take me on board, this new idea. I was applying myself for 2 years, and then I had the power. Then I went to Saticat, and I had gold on a tray saying, listen, after 2 years, we're making money. And they're like, oh. And they're like the Victoria's Secrets of the home world. So there was like no qualms. They took it. Obviously, the contracts are ironclad. You have to, even with the lawyers, I'm telling the lawyers what to say and what to do. You got to be careful. I mean, you're lucky if you get a good lawyer and a good standard contract, but you even have to tweak the contract. You have to protect yourself. You have to protect your brand because when you enter the corporate world, they don't have the same passion. They don't dot their I's and cross their T's. They have more money than God. Even though I have a license deal, I'm very intertwined. And I'm still, every single stockist that I have, I've gotten it myself, even with Saticat. But I have like this monster machine, but I'm still micromanaging my brand right now. And for me, it was really important to go with one of the big boys because now we're expanding to the world. I just got into Bed Bath & Beyond, into Macy's. I'm hopefully going to sign this deal with a massive, massive conglomerate. They base themselves out of Dubai. So I wouldn't have been able to expand the way I'm expanding now. This is another thing in business. You have to know your strengths and your weaknesses. And my weaknesses, even though some people become very complacent. Oh, we're making money. We're making 6 figures. This is great. Blah, blah, blah. But you have to keep growing. If you stay stagnant, you will die. And I didn't have the capability to grow my brand. I needed more people. And I needed, even though I was working 12-hour days, at the time, I just had 2 babies. They are my priority and then my business. So, I just couldn't do it myself, and that's why I decided to go with a license deal.
Do you feel that you were slightly taken advantage of because of your lack of business experience in the early days?
If you think that you're being taken advantage of, then boo-hoo on you. It's your responsibility to go out there and to learn so that nobody takes advantage of you. So I'm never a victim here. I am taking full responsibility of everything that happens in my life. And that's my power. And that's what I recommend to all, especially, I'm all about the women and I'm such a supporter of women in business and women in general. Don't ever be a victim because a lot of us play that card. Don't do it. You lose your power. You're not a victim. You take full responsibility of everything and you move forward. I learned every integral part of my business. I trained the people that are so-called specialists in that, I know how to manage my brand. I know how to market my brand. I know how to negotiate. I know everything about the factories. I know a lot about production, not everything about production, but it hasn't been a detriment to me not knowing everything about the factory. It's okay. But I made it a point to educate myself. And I never went to university. I'm a grafter. It's all about Googling, research, asking, and just doing. Sort of learning from the streets, learning from your mistakes, and never making them again.
Nice. Has Brexit had any impact on the business?
Yes. With the exchange rate, massive. Not so much on me anymore. When I was supplying myself, it killed me because the sterling dropped so tremendously, And then obviously sales have been impacted. So it's tough out there. I'm not going to lie. Retail is tough. That's why I need to expand to the world.
I've read that when you started by Caprice, that you made underwear and swimwear that you wanted to wear, and that kind of went wrong because the sales suffered as a result.
Oh my God. Everyone knows that. I know now that my personal taste, nobody else likes. So I will never let my ego get involved again because I lost money. So, now it's all about, it makes me laugh with corporates, right? They spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on these marketing research groups. Just look at your sales. Look at your weekly sales and understand your customer.
And I understand that you were looking at the sales when you were partnered with Debenhams as well.
And
that's
my goodness.
how you got ahead and got yourself out of the license agreement with them.
And I started supplying myself. That's what I do. Every single week, I am obsessed with sell-through on every single stockist. And that's how I get to know what my customer is. And you know what? By the way, my customer changes. It used to be so young, and I cater to that. Now, maybe because I'm middle-aged, it's gotten slightly older. So now it's 18 to 42. It used to be 18 to 30. So I have to cater to that. The designs are different. They're a little bit more elegant, a little bit more timeless, rather than quirky and fun.
Now we have more celebrity-led products.
Yes.
But you were among the early.
I was the first one. I mean, I know Elle Macpherson was doing it, but she was doing it only in Australia. She hadn't come over. So I was one of the first ones. That's why it was so difficult for Terry Green, he was the CEO of Debenhams, to come on board right away, because this was a new concept. It wasn't tried and tested. And he took a big leap. And actually, he was hailed as king of innovation as a result, because we sold out like in 2 weeks. This is in the initial stages in 2000, I think. And that's initially why I stopped doing a license deal with Debenhams, because I knew I wouldn't be the flavor of the moment and they would dump me. So I had to be on top of my game and start supplying myself to other stockists while my name was hot, while the brand name Caprice was popular and respected.
So how do you think the celebrity products have evolved since the early noughties?
You know what? It's saturated. The market is absolutely saturated with celebrity endorsement. I think with some of the celebrities, it works for a year and then they're finished. And then they see who the hot Love Island winner is of that season, then they go with it, Like with my product, it's different. I actually supplied. I actually paid for the business. I've actually become a brand name.
Yeah.
I've gone past the celebrity endorsement. This is a business.
What kind of difficulties did you face in moving away from Debenhams?
The biggest difficulty is I was risking all my own money. And in that first drop, I lost almost $250,000. That hurt. And then with the exchange rate and with 2008, although it impacted me in 2009, I lost over $1 million just in exchange rate. I was so silly. I didn't understand forwards. I didn't understand how to buy currencies, because remember, all my factories were in China. So I was paying for everything in American dollars. And then I was getting paid from my stockists in sterling. So I was constantly exchanging money, and I just didn't understand how to do it properly. I didn't understand forwards. I didn't understand how to hedge. I would just buy everything on spot. How stupid was that? It went from 2.05 to 1.37 almost overnight. Didn't understand it, so I lost a heck of a lot of money, but I've never made that mistake again.
Yeah, because of course, you have to wear all the hats, as they say, when you're a business owner. But some things that you just don't have a natural knack for. You do have to.
And you know what I did? I did research, and there's some great government funding. You have to go and you have to research it. There's people out there that will help you to start your own business. This country wants it. It encourages small business. There's so much help out there. It's really, really impressive, actually.
Was that a combination of money that you made modeling plus government investment?
Yeah. It was my savings, but obviously I lost a lot, so I was hurting. Yet my brand was doing really, really well, and the government. And by the way, everyone, I pay all my taxes, and I pay a lot of taxes for the last 500 years. I have the right to access this as well, and I was smart enough to do this. Otherwise, I probably would have lost my business.
It can be so volatile.
Oh, you just don't know. And not only that, I had to completely readjust my business plan. But thank goodness, one thing that was really, really important to me is the people that work with me, I'm quite loyal. So I wanted that to be the last port of call to get rid of any employees, because, you're supporting families, for goodness sakes. So I was able, thank goodness, to keep all my employees, but I had to readjust my whole business plan.
What kind of adjustments did you have to make?
Well, I had to cut back. I mean, even my collections, I had to cut back. I couldn't take any risk anymore because before I was buying a lot of extra stock because I knew the buying patterns from my stockists, and the stockists were buying differently. They were much more cautious and they weren't buying enough. I knew they weren't buying enough. So I would take that risk and I would buy deeper at my own risk. I had to stop doing that. So it did impact because I would run out of stock. And that's not good for a business as well. If you're selling 2 months later, then you have out of stock all over the place. It's a disaster, but I couldn't take that risk anymore. I think for people that are starting out, understand cash flow, because normally when you start a business, you don't start seeing a return 3 to 5 years. Know that. And passion. You've got to be obsessed with what you're doing. You've got to really, because you live it.
Well, that's it from me, unless there's anything else you'd like to add or any other
Honey, we have
wisdom.
killed it 10 times over.
Thanks for coming on the show. You can find out more about Caprice at capricebourret.com. You can also visit smallbusiness.co.uk for entrepreneur Q&As and other advice to help you start your business. Remember to like us on Facebook at Small Business Experts and follow us on Twitter at Small Business UK, all lowercase. Until next time, thank you for listening.